What if everything went right for America? Come, let's find out.
Look at the defining moments of recent American memory. Economic crashes wiping out savings, geopolitical traumas echoing for decades, and political polarization paralyzing the government. Now, reel it all backward. Imagine watching every crisis unhappen, rewinding the chaos into a state of perfect calm. We are going to build what historians might call the Zenith state, a thought experiment where every major turning point in the timeline of the United States resolves perfectly. To do this, we have to rule out magic. We are relying strictly on realistic, expert-backed historical alternatives. Every alternate path we explore was a genuine option on the table at the time. We will watch this flawless version of America take shape step by step. But as we assemble this utopia, pay close attention to the pieces that get left behind. We need to see if a nation can keep its soul when we erase its struggle. The American Revolution ends, and instead of bickering factions, the new states emerge tightly unified. Because early political divisions are managed smoothly, the framers adapt the Constitution with broad national consensus. That early political stability changes the trajectory of westward expansion. The government relies entirely on careful diplomacy and binding treaties with Native American nations, sidestepping centuries of violent frontier conflict. Even in this timeline, compromise eventually fails, and the Civil War still breaks out. We still see the physical destruction, like the devastation of Richmond shown here. But the divergence happens immediately after the guns fall silent. Here, the post-war era of Reconstruction is an absolute immediate success. Federal policies actually hold. The newly reunited government successfully protects the civil rights of formerly enslaved people and aggressively rebuilds Southern infrastructure. The nation establishes legal equality and economic parity across the South a full century earlier than in our reality. By the late 19th century, this rapid social stabilization acts as an accelerant. Without the drag of ongoing internal conflict, the country rockets toward an industrial golden age with a totally unified workforce. During the Gilded Age, the industrial machine roars to life. But in the Zenith timeline, lawmakers pass proactive labor protections. The sweatshops and child labor you see in these real-world textile mills never materialize, entirely avoiding the horrific factory disasters and intense wealth gaps of the 1890s. A few decades later, early warning signs of market instability trigger swift, coordinated financial regulations. The stock market still dips, but the policies hold the floor, preventing the massive bank runs and the decade of mass poverty that defined the real Great Depression. When global fascism rises, the United States still enters World War II. However, vastly superior early intelligence and tighter international coordination allow the Allies to dismantle key threats faster, winning the war while drastically minimizing the scale of global destruction. The resulting Cold War stays largely in the laboratory and at the negotiating table. The fierce competition still drives revolutionary scientific discoveries, leading straight to satellites, GPS, and the lunar landing. But keeping that conflict entirely diplomatic means America completely bypasses the bloody proxy wars. The draft, the societal fractures, and the massive casualties of Vietnam and Korea simply do not happen. Domestically, the momentum continues. Because Reconstruction succeeded in the 1860s, the modern civil rights advancements of the 1960s are achieved seamlessly through bipartisan legislation. There is no need for decades of grueling public struggle to secure basic human dignity. The entire 20th century becomes a sequence of compounding victories. Public policy and diplomacy preserve the country's greatest triumphs, while systematically erasing its deepest traumas, setting up a flawless transition into the new millennium. In this modern era, unprecedented international intelligence sharing successfully flags and thwarts the September 11th attacks. By neutralizing the threat early, the United States avoids 2 entire decades of costly foreign wars and the resulting geopolitical fallout. 7 years later, strict proactive banking oversight stops predatory lending before it infects the market. The financial system remains stable, completely averting the 2008 housing crash and keeping household wealth intact. Now look at the balance sheet. By avoiding 20 years of war and massive financial bailouts, the government saves trillions of dollars. Those funds are aggressively redirected into domestic infrastructure, universal healthcare, and public education. The present-day Zenith state operates with zero political gridlock. Immigration reform, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence are handled as bipartisan, long-term projects. Cities are pristine, connected by high-speed rail networks, powered by clean energy grids, and anchored by absolute economic stability. By every measurable metric, from household income to life expectancy, this version of the United States is the most prosperous, secure society in human history. It is a perfect architectural blueprint of a nation. But when you look closely at this flawless society, you start to notice what is missing from its culture. Think about the defining art, literature, and music that shaped American identity. Jazz, blues, rock and roll, and hip-hop were forged directly in the fires of marginalization. The country's most profound cultural movements were born as mechanisms to survive systemic failure. Sociologists study a concept known as the resilience paradox. It suggests that surviving catastrophic failures forces a society to build deeper institutional empathy and collective grit. A population that navigates collective trauma learns how to endure. If a nation never had to bleed on a bridge for its voting rights or claw its way out of the Dust Bowl in a Great Depression, it loses the specific character forged in those fires. The Zenith state has no scars, but it might also have no recognizable identity. That is the final trade-off. We can design a timeline that delivers unparalleled wealth, security, and comfort, but taking away the struggle forces us to ask whether overcoming profound adversity was the true engine of American greatness all along.